Good morning, good evening, whatever the case may be. Who is that guy that says that? This is the Midnight Ocean Radio Show and Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Norton. You can join me here every Monday through Friday. We're having some issues with the audio, but every Monday through Friday, commonly known as weeknights at 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. For all of you guys that are out there in YouTube land, please let us know how we sound. It seems like we're clipping. Wow, we're overdriving something pretty big. Give me a second here. I don't know what's going on. Just kind of back this down, kind of adjust this, see if that works. Still a little hot. Hello, Christian. Check 1, 2. Wow, it's still hot. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. We're having a little audio problem here in the studio. It was weird because I think we got good levels there. There we go. I think it'll work. So so you guys out there in YouTube land, please let me know how we are sounding, or how I am sounding. I've always said it's me, myself, and I. So I guess it's appropriate for me to say we. But yes, it is Thursday. The big hurricane, Hermie, hit Florida. We have been sending out tweets there. Thank you, Kristen, for letting us know. Yeah, we had a little audio issue there. It was weird. I didn't change anything. The hurricane. It's the hurricane running for the hills. Run for the hills. But we shall overcome. Nothing like doing a live show. Now, one of the things I will tell you, I've been working with Telos, who is a radio. These guys are huge in the radio business, especially in the equipment and stuff. So we're putting together a special package. We're going to be updating the studio, a lot of the equipment. That's right. We're going to get off of a lot of this software-based stuff that we're doing, which is awesome if you are a up-and-coming podcaster. But because we are looking to syndicate here in the next few months, we're going to have to change our game a little bit. We're going to have to put away the corked bats and use real bats, as they would say. So we're going to be doing that, and hopefully a lot of these issues will go away. We've cleared up a lot of them, though. We've done a lot, and there's nothing wrong with what we got going on here. It's perfectly fine. It's just that we need to upgrade. We have to upgrade. Like I said, we're coming out of the minor leagues and we're going into the major leagues. So we got to play with the big boys. I don't know if you guys noticed. Right above here, TMO listener. We are going to try something new tonight. We have actually installed a new server, and instead of we found that the phone hybrids, the phone system, the Faro Partners wrote a great system for us, but it's based on an older technology called phone. so we're gonna try Skype tonight. So if you want to talk to us, or if you want to talk to the guest, TMO listener. So you log into your Skype account. If you don't have Skype, you can get it on your phone. It's free of charge. You can download it. You can do whatever you want with it. Put it wherever you want to on your tablet. And just type in TMO listener. And that shall route to us. And we're going to use the Skype system tonight for all of our calls into the network. So what a night. We're in Noah. That's right. For those that have been following me on Twitter, I'm having a hard time. Let me just stop. When I was learning how to fly, my flight instructor once told me, the first thing you do when something goes wrong in an airplane is nothing. Stop. So let me just stop and reset here, because I am completely discombobulated. It happens. Sometimes we get that way. We get manic. Get manic on the radio. First of all, welcome. This is the Midnight Ocean radio show and podcast. I am your host, Jeff Norton. Join us here every weeknight from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're on the web 24/7 at www.themidnightocean.com. Much better. That sounded so much better. So let's get back into the thing here. Tonight's going to be a great show. I'm looking very forward to it. We're going to have Sasha Laghonh. Once again, another one of these names I can't pronounce. Laghonh. It's got Laghonh. I believe it's right. Sasha will probably correct me when she gets on. But she's going to be joining us at the bottom of the hour. She's a life coach, spiritualist. It's going to be interesting. I always love talking to people who help other people. It's awesome. What a profession. Think about it. Think about it. You get up every day knowing that you're going to do good in the world that day. Right? Pretty cool, isn't it? It's kind of like our first responders. And by the way, hats off. I got the headphones on. To all of our first responders, all those guys that are out there treading through the hurricane, making sure that people are safe and sound. Today we were tweeting out the conditions here. I am in the heart of the hurricane here in Florida. We're actually right on the cusp. Originally it was going to hit us directly, and then it moved north. And however, we have not escaped its grasp. We are at the edge of it, and as you know, if you follow hurricanes or anything like that, that's where the winds are. Not getting as much rain. We had a lot of rain earlier today. Had to drain the pool. Did about 500 gallons in about an hour. Fill up the pool. So we had to drain that. I haven't checked it tonight. I'm not going to go out there. We have a lot of lightning. The wind is upon us. It's going to make landfall about 2 a.m., about the time we close the show down. So I might run out there and check everything, make sure things are battened down. But we, had to batten the hatches down and pick up the lawn furniture and do all of that stuff. But we're safe, we're sound, and everything. It was kind of cool though. As I was tweeting out, got a phone call or an email from CNN. Yeah, asked me if I wanted to be on CNN. That never happened. But I did tell them about the show and said that I will be giving out live updates throughout the evening. So who knows, they might still call in. Give them the contact information. Yeah, have Don Lemon, my guest. How cool would that be? So we are all safe and sound here in the studio. We have our battery backups, our generator, everything's running. We're good to go. Not too much. Now, I want to give a little criticism though. There's a lot of people out there on social media say, "Oh, this is nothing. They're hyping the storm up, blah 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 blah." And I get that. I understand, because I've even said, "Well, this is nothing but a big old rainstorm." But you got to understand. You got to understand that the time that they don't do that is the time when the monster hits, and then we lose lives. And the other thing too is the other part of it is it's been since 2005 since Florida has been hit by a hurricane. A lot of people have short-term memory. They do. So I don't think it's hype. I think it's fair for them, for the news people, to take this seriously. It's a serious thing. People die and stuff like this. Have you ever stood out in 75-mile-an-hour winds? Yeah. Most of you, I can say, probably not. It's pretty serious stuff. Things get damaged. The other part of it too is the tornadoes. Not just the hurricane, it's the tornadoes. Most of the homes here are built for the hurricanes. I mean, the studio that I'm in right now it's all concrete. With every 6 inch or 6 feet, it's got a solid core of concrete, cinder block with solid core concrete. Things are built pretty stout. I'm not too worried about the hurricane. I'm more worried about the tornadoes, right? So for all of those people that are out there saying, "Oh, you guys are talking it up," no, I'm glad they're doing that, because we need to take it seriously. My concern actually is that the storm wasn't bad enough, and this is It's a really bad way of thinking about it. But my concern is the storm's not going to be, bad enough, and people will become complacent. So when the next storm hits, they'll be like, "Oh, yeah, whatever. It was just a rainstorm." So hats off to you guys that are reporting on this. Those guys that are out there doing it. We actually one of the favorite places that we go to is Cedar Keys. That was where the storm was originally going to make landfall, between Yankeetown and Cedar Keys, and we're right here in Yankeetown. So, yes, there is a Yankeetown, and believe it or not, right before you get to Yankeetown, there's a town called Crackertown. So, just letting you know. And yes, it was named after a bunch of Yankees. That's why they called it. That's what the Southerners called it, because this is where a lot of the rich New Yorkers, a lot of the Yankees would come down here and vacation. So, in the nature coast. But I digress. Let's get back to the matter at hand. So, over in Cedar Keys, where Sandy and I love to go, and believe it or not, is the Boston 3-time world champion clam chowder winner is there in Cedar Keys. And they had a mandatory evacuation. The only people that are on the island right now is the news and the hotel owner, who has to stay because of the news. And he made that perfectly clear. Newscaster, it was hilarious. I love people who are just blatantly honest. The newscaster was like, "Well, why are you still here?" And he's like, "Oh, where are you going to sleep?" so that was kind of funny. I'm not going to leave you the keys. I don't trust you. So now I got to risk my life because you guys want to come out here and report on this stuff. So yeah, Cedar Keys. It's about 20 miles or so up the road. Has been evacuated. Pretty serious stuff. Yeah, you got to take this stuff serious. We didn't even bother going down to the Gulf because we figured it would just be packed. It'd probably be dangerous. But we had a surge, about a 3-foot storm surge, and where we're located, we're high and dry, so we're good. The Norton household is just dandy. Just dandy. No, Possum 1010. Let me give you guys. All right. So before people in the chat room, if you are just joining us, if you're new to the show, the only chat room that I actually pay attention, you guys can talk to me during the show, is the one on YouTube, and that's actually a good segue. If you're joining us on YouTube, or if you go to YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to our channel. That's very important. The other thing too is, if you're on social media, make sure that you like us, give us the thumbs up, join us. It's really easy to find. It's the Midnight Ocean. If you want to join our group, which is Midnight Listeners, there's benefit to that. We give away things, and we have different events, private events and things in the future, and give you discounts on tours and out into the Gulf as we go out and look for UFOs in the sky. So a lot of benefit there. So if you're ever in Florida, hook me up or look me up and I'll hook you up. And of course on Twitter, the MN Ocean, @ the MN Ocean, TMO guest, TMO host. But going back to the chat room, I see that Possum. Let me kind of explain this to you. So Yankeetown actually was, the story behind Yankeetown is, well, for those of them, there's an Elvis Presley movie that was filmed here. What Dreams May Come. That was the name of it was a classic Elvis movie. The other thing too is that Yankeetown was known for its gunpowder production. Believe it or not. We had phosphate and everything, and it was known for that. So there's a lot of wealthy mining families here. And what happened is one of the main families, you might know them, might have heard of them, called the Rockefellers, and their brood. They would come down here. They had a plantation down here. They had a actual island. On the island, they had a big mansion. It's long since been destroyed, but you can still see remnants. Pretty cool. I have a real good friend, Captain Rick, who does sightseeing tours. But needless to say, the family would come down from New York, New York, and then the train would stop there in Jacksonville, and then they would have to take a ride, basically a taxi or a car or a horse, whatever, across to Florida, and they would have to come here. And so what happened was is that everybody, when these Yankees would come down and they're like, we're looking for so and so, because you look, let's face it, Northerners tend to be, and I'm a Yankee, so I can say this, right? That's rude. I probably shouldn't say this, but I can probably say this. Northerners are not known for their, how do you say, hospitality or whatever. They're kind of, kind of abrupt. And so they would come down and they say, well, and they expect everybody to know what they meant. We got to go here. We got to do this. And so the locals in Jacksonville would be like, yeah, that's that Yankee town. That's where all the Yankees are. And that's how it got its name, and it's always stuck. Now, Crackertown, which is amazing, Crackertown, this area is actually very well known for its livestock. There's a lot of horse. Ocala, which is close here, is the #1 horse capital of the world. I always thought it was either in Kentucky or Shelbyville, Tennessee, but no, it's in Ocala. They have an airport, kid you not, in Ocala, that they bring in. We'll see United Emirates airplanes here, and you will see guys in the long white robes and everything, and you're looking at it going, what the heck? These are where their horses, the Arabian horse. This is the breeding capital for them. So they would come here, and they have these huge 747s, and they would load these things up with horses. It's the craziest thing you've ever seen. So this area is known for that. So Crackertown was a slang for cowboy. So that's where all the cowboys lived. All the crackers, because the reason being is they crack the whip, right? So that's what that is all about. I'm going to give you guys a little history. A little history. But the area that I broadcast from is called the Nature Coast. And the reason being is this is a protected nature area. To cut a tree, any tree that's over 2 inches in diameter, you have to have a permit to cut it down. And it's beautiful. You can walk into the woods maybe 5 or 10 feet and not see daylight thereof. It's crazy. We have relatives, we have friends, we have families that are up from upper Michigan, and they come here to visit, and they're like, this is just like being in the woods, except it's 90 degrees and there's alligators. So, but I love it here, and the occasional hurricane is not going to discourage me. So, with that being said, I just want to say, like I said, we are all safe. There are good things happening. Good things happening. I'm going to go ahead and close down the TMO line. We'll probably bring that up a little bit later. But like I said, we are switching over to a Skype-based system for taking calls. We feel that that's a better quality audio. But what a night. What a night last night. Manu, he's a crazy guy. And it was amazing because most of the tweets that I got, or the responses, chat room responses, they like, wow, he's in touch with a lot of things. Yeah. Guys, everybody puts on their pants the same way, regardless of what profession they choose or what profession they're blessed to be in. So yeah, great guy. Down to earth. Very down to earth. Great guy. And everything. So if you missed that show, I highly recommend you get out there and listen to it. It was a fun show. Very, very entertaining. Did you see? Today's just not a good day for Florida. No, I have to say, today is not a good day for Florida. The first confirmed mosquito-borne Zika virus has been confirmed. And like I said, I'm a little torn about what they're doing about it. I know they're trying to be aggressive, but did you hear we're in South Carolina where they're spraying for Zika and they're killing the honeybees? Yeah. I don't know. It's one of those decisions, right? But I do know this. You kill the honeybees, you destroy your food production, your crop production. The honeybees are dying off now, be it cellular, be it pesticides, be it fungal, be it whatever. There's a huge issue with bumblebees now. The last thing you want to do is spray the air and kill them. Well, maybe Monsanto wants that. Who knows? Who knows? That's some scary stuff. The other thing, too, is the rocket. You see the rocket blow up today? That thing was incredible. Just amazing. They were filling it up with fuel, and they had something happened in the second stage, and it blew up. Yeah, and they were talking, oh, this is going to set space exploration. It's not. Elon Musk is not going to sit around, and he's not going to have a panel, and he's not going to have a 8-year-long investigation, and he's going to smack his engineers in the back of the head and say, build me a better rocket. Right? And within about a month, you're going to see another Falcon X take off. But it was amazing. Did you notice one thing, though? I noticed one thing. I find it kind of odd that structure, there's a still structure holding that rocket up. Some of you guys know where I'm going with this, right? But there's a still structure holding that rocket up, and it didn't melt. It didn't collapse. After being set right next to a rocket that exploded with all that fuel, all that rocket fuel, which rocket fuel's got to burn hotter than jet fuel. You guys know where I'm going with this one? I found that kind of ironic. Or not ironic. I found it kind of weird. Sitting there watching. I'm waiting for the tower. I'm like, hey, the tower's going to fall because they tell me, the scientists have told me, Popular Science has did a report and said that jet fuel will burn and melt metal. So I was waiting for that sucker to come down. It didn't come down at all. Nope. And that's after it's sitting right next to a rocket going off. So just pointing that out there. Just pointing that out there. So hopefully we got the gremlins worked out of the system tonight. We are going to have Sasha's hopefully going to be joining us. I know that we did talk to it's going to be another one of those situations where she hopefully she didn't lose her keys like Manu yesterday. But no, I talked to her today, and she said she is good to go. But you're listening to the Jeff Norton of the Midnight Ocean Radio Show and Podcast. Join us here. Tell your friends about us. We're here every weeknight from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The wind may huff and puff, might try to blow us down, but we'll always get back up. But when we get back from the break, hopefully we will have Sasha Laghonh on.
This is the Midnight Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network. is the Midnight Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network.
That is right. This is the Midnight Ocean Radio Show and Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Norton. You can join us here live every weeknight from 10 p.m. till, well, 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Man, I'm having one of those days. It's weird. I don't know if you guys out there on YouTube are hearing it, but for some reason, the main computer, the main soundboard is ducking out. In other words, it is fading fast. But as long as you can hear my voice, that's all that really matters. And hopefully you can hear our guest voice. Sasha brings over 15 years of experience to the commercial and spiritual realm by working with private and commercial clients, hosting diverse backgrounds and life endeavors. As a seasoned MBA professional, she also specializes in organizational and human behavior, which grants her a broad base from which to approach many topics. And without further ado, I would like to welcome Sasha to the show. Sasha, are you there?
I am here. Hi,
Oh,
Jeff.
hi. How are you? I have to add, I am. I know you have. I know you haven't probably ever listened to one of my shows. One of the things you'll learn about me, I have a hard time with names. Maybe you can help me with that. Why do I have a hard time? How do you pronounce your last name?
It's Lago. And actually, I've
Well,
listened to about at least 10, 12 hours of
oh,
your work, and I
oh,
just find
wow.
it to be fascinating
Thank
of
you.
all the different topics that you cover.
Thank you very much. I'm now you got me all. I'm all giddy. I'm all giddy. So to know that you listen to this show, but I appreciate you taking the time out. And I know today was kind of sketchy. I didn't even know if we were going to have a show based upon our weather, but we are persevering, and we hopefully the power will stay on, and we will be connected and everything. But if we do drop, I'll apologize ahead of time.
Don't worry about it because every time I make an appearance on a paranormal or alternative show, there's always something going on with weather, electricity, and technology. And I got a bit nervous before knowing what the weather would be like or what may happen today that I
Yeah,
said, I just hope I get to connect with him because there
yeah,
have been times where I get kicked off the shows because technology isn't cooperating.
exactly. Well, and that's the one thing too is that for I don't well I didn't bring you on, you didn't hear it, but our main computer that does all of our music for the show, it's like the time clock and everything for the advertising. If for some strange reason it's ducking out, in other words, it will get real high in volume in my earphones, and then it will get like real soft. So
Oh,
that's
wow.
I'm just going to turn it off, and then we'll just do it the old fashioned way. I'll just push buttons and forget the computer stuff. But that's not why you are here to talk. So I have to ask
Sure.
right off the bat. I'm gonna hit you because this is something that's always I had I guess a question about. What is the difference between spirituality and religion? I'm just going to ask you that because I know you kind of do a spirituality kind of life coach and everything. What is the
Yes.
difference? We always say, "Oh, well, I'm spiritual, but not religious." And to be honest with you, when I say that, I really don't know what I'm saying. I just regurgitate
Okay.
what I've
Well,
heard
I'll
before.
also bring into faith into play because
Okay.
in my mind, I believe that religion is more between man, which
Okay.
has to do with the tenets and following, having a checklist. And with faith, it's between yourself and your higher creator.
Okay.
So it's more of a one-on-one relationship. Now, for spiritual people who claim that they're not religious, I mean, you could be both, but for spirituality, they feel that they don't belong to any man-made organization where there's a checklist that they need to go through. How many times a day do you pray? Do you do charity? The Ten Commandments. all of the major tenets that people adhere to. With spirituality, it's a little bit more fluid, where there's no pressure on pacing yourself of how you become to learn more about yourself and learning how to connect with your creator. And creator could be God for some people, or other people call it the source or energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like to, I leave that to the audience because everyone is different. But with spirituality, I feel people aren't that intimidated because there's less judgment.
Sure.
People aren't paying attention to what you don't do, they're paying attention to what you do to pass on the positivity and the goodness.
See, I've been walking around just like I said, regurgitating. I'm going to be honest with you. It's one thing I just brutally honest with myself and with everybody else. We walk around and say, well, I'm a spiritual person, but I'm not a religious person. And I've always wanted to know, what does that really mean? What does it mean to be spiritual? But I get it. I understand, the religious more of the dogma, adhering to like a faith or I'm with you. I'm with you. So then that leads me into my next question. Obviously, when because you invoke or you use spirituality in your teaching, right? In your programs.
The Well, I promote self development and positivity. And I
Okay.
always let people know in the audience is that I am not it's not a political show, it's not a religious show.
Mm-hmm.
Because among the field of spirituality, there are people who also come on the show and we discuss, excuse me, metaphysical elements like paranormal, or depending on what intrigues the audience, I will present it if it falls within my, I would say, my knowledge and comfort zone.
Sure.
And a lot of people think that at the end of the day, I should say at the end of some of my shows, I say, be good, be safe, be blessed, God bless. And people say, why do you say God bless? And I just say, that's a part of who I am. And if you don't believe in God, then it doesn't have any meaning. They're just words to that
Yeah.
person. But overall, about spirituality shows, some of them, well, initially when I started out, I used to do a call in show and I was just left speechless that there would be people waiting in line to talk to me for an hour and a half, 2 hours, not knowing that they might get on air.
Yeah.
And they just wanted to ask questions about themselves. And that fell under entertainment because they were all metaphysical questions. But it got to a point where I told myself they're not really learning anything because they just want to know if their lover will come back. Am I pregnant? And some of those questions, they're good for entertainment value, but people have to take accountability in their life to understand that if you go for, let's say, a spiritual reading or to a professional, you're still responsible for the decisions that you make. You don't hand over that power to a stranger you don't know or anyone to make that decision for you. So once it started getting a little bit overrated, I stepped away from it and started focusing on spiritual topics
Okay.
and not just doing readings on
Just do it.
air, because that is a lot of energy for me to be
Mm-hmm.
sharing that space with strangers. And of course, when you have people calling into shows like that, there are a lot of energy vampires
Mm-hmm.
and it takes up time.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, even with these shows, I kind of cringe because you never. I mean, I love the call, like the people in the chat room and everything. But yeah, I cringe because you don't know who you're going to get, and you're absolutely right. You'll get people who are energy vampires whose sole purpose is to suck.
I
You know.
do want to laugh at that because there are some that are worth the wait that you want to talk to and they really learn, and you know that
Mhm.
they're respecting your work. And then there are those that just want to hear themselves and share their midlife crisis on the phone, but they're not walking away with any value.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I used to spend time listening and in different groups and trying just to be a better person. And there's many times where I just shake my head and it's like, what does that have to do with what we're doing right now? What does that have to do with you not drinking today? What does that have to do with you getting up and being a productive member of society? And it's like, yeah, I don't know. And hats off to you because you sit. I mean, how much time do you sit listening to people's problems? I mean, it seems like most I think most of the time when you talk to people, you're probably dealing with other people's issues.
It's I typically block off periods of time when I'm going to do spiritual sessions, and
Mm-hmm.
with the professional coaching, it's more straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
With the spirituality insight counseling, I do my own energy work in terms of prayer and keeping my energy grounded before I even consider a client. And some of the people who have followed me throughout the years know that I have heightened up the barriers of entry because if I'm going to invest my time, it's not about me taking someone's money, but I need to know that they are mentally and emotionally ready to make those changes. And of course, sometimes you're going to cross paths with people where it's a one time experience, but I'm not in the business of keeping people to be my quote unquote forever client, where
Gotcha.
I leave you with a cliffhanger and you're going to run out and then you're going to come back 2 weeks later and you want another reading or a self development session. I'm not there to break people down so that then they come back and purchase more or they have an incentive. There are people that I keep in touch with that used to come through the radio shows and they let me know that how they're doing, and that's great. There's no strings attached because I also have a competing career, which also comes from corporate, and that's where the professional coaching and all of that came from. And with the spiritual counseling, I am really particular about the type of personalities I will work with because there are a lot of people who think they're ready, but they're not. They're not ready to take that leap of faith, whether they want to embrace a new relationship, a new opportunity. Other people, they like to throw a pity party, and I don't have time to RSVP to those. I'll give people a free pass to talk about it 2, 3 times in a session. But if nothing has changed in their path, I'm not that person for them. It might be because I don't speak the quote unquote the right language to get to them or they're not emotionally ready, but I can't feel bad for them because I do believe by observation among a few shows that I've done on different platforms that there are some people that will call in, nothing has changed, they just want to be heard. And there's nothing wrong with being heard, but I can't be that person who's always there to
Yeah.
tell you it will be okay when I know it won't be okay.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think there's like you said. I think there's a level of self response. You got to take the wheel, and you got to drive.
Right.
Be
And I
responsible for
tell
your life.
them I'm not the devil and I'm not the angel, but you have to exercise tough love.
Yeah. And that's cool. I'm down with that. That's how well, I think I'm a little bit too tough sometimes, on people and a little bit too rough, and that's something that I need to work on. Is to be a little less critical and everything, but it's part of the profession, I guess, when you deal with
Well,
this all day
it's
in and
also
day out.
tricky because when you're doing the spiritual counseling thing, which is the opposite on the polarity of doing business and
Yeah.
everything is judgmental. I just want to make sure, Jeff, before I proceed, am I talking over you? Because
No,
I have you on mute and I want to make sure that I'm not talking over you. Because
no,
I
no,
see your
no.
lips moving, but I put you on
Oh,
mute.
wait. So you're watching me on YouTube?
Yes, but you're
Don't do
muted at the
that.
moment.
Don't do that. The YouTube
Okay.
feed, there's about a 10 second. It's funny that you're saying that. It is about a 10-second delay.
Okay, I clicked out, so I'm not looking at you now.
Yeah, don't look.
So,
Yeah, you don't want to look at this anyways. This is.
no, because I see your lips moving and I'm thinking, oh my God, the audience must think I'm so rude. I'm talking over him.
No. This is perfect. No, that is so funny because no, there's about a 10-second delay between what you see in YouTube. Obviously because we have the profanity delays and stuff kicked in, and yeah, there's about a 10-second delay. So yeah, you're looking at the few. We're time warping right now. We're 10 seconds
Oh,
ahead of
okay.
everybody
Well,
else
I
out there in
clicked
the
out
world.
of it, but as I was saying, as you mentioned about being harsh or
Yeah,
with the judgment, when you do the spiritual work, I have to abandon all of my biases and my judgment in order to
sure.
deliver a proper service. And for some reason, I have that on and off switch when it comes to that. And it's ironic because when I do corporate work, everything is about being categorizing good and bad.
Yeah, black and white. So first let's dig into the spiritual work. I mean, typically what kind of topics do you deal with from a from a spiritual standpoint?
Oh my, I get all types of questions. There are people who come regarding love and relationships. At times they're dating people, multiple people, and they want to know what is the likelihood of any of those relationships panning out. Uh, then there are marriages that need work or divorces. People are separated. They would like to know whether there will be a possible reconciliation. There are people who want to move. When will I sell my house? And these are sample questions. And
Sure.
then there are people who hate their job so much they want to know when a new job will come along. Now, the root question underneath all of this has to do with what are they doing in order to seek the result to transition to a better page, to a
Yeah.
better chapter. And sometimes those questions let me know that there's stuff that goes beyond the spiritual and the quote unquote psychic realm. It's not a psychic issue. It might have to do with self esteem challenges, or somebody is in an abusive relationship. Now and then there may be people battling addiction. Now, the thing with me is that as an empath, I'm a little bit too sensitive that I have to be really picky about how I ground my energy and how I protect my energy because there are times where people may come through. This used to be when I used to work on third party websites where walk in clients can just call you or initiate a chat. And I could tell when a person was drunk, buzzed, high on prescription medication because I would pick up on it and I would feel that hangover, that buzz.
Right.
And it's those energy transfer and that, I would say, interaction is really real. That I used to deal with all types of concerns. And in my private practice, I will not read on legal issues because we have lawyers for that. I will not tell you what to do with your money. I don't deal with gambling, and I'm not an addiction specialist. So if it's anything that falls outside of my realm, I tell my clients that I cannot help you, but these are the potential professionals you may want to consider. And if I recommend them to anybody. I do not make any money off it, but I let them know what type of professional to look for. Because I've had cases where there are women in abusive relationships and they think that a psychic reading or a spiritual counseling session will resolve their challenge, but it goes much deeper.
Yeah. So part of your process is not only the clinical side, the one-on-one clinic, listen to what people are saying, analyzing that, but you use your ability as an empath to also pick up on their emotion, that hidden part of communication that we don't quite understand yet. I mean, you,
Correct. I apply my senses, but I am also clairsentient where I could feel the impressions that come to me regarding a individual, and I don't go looking for information that they don't want. So if a person comes to me in a private session, typically I ask them what is the topic, what are the questions that you want me to focus on, and I will focus on those. And if I don't pick up anything that comes across strongly, I would like to believe I'm ethical where I will let you know that there's not enough information for me to conduct a session with you, and there's no point of you exchanging money with me for my time.
right,
Now, typically I ask them for a few questions because it lets me know where I need to focus and what I need to extract from the energies present. Sometimes I tell them to defer a reading because they might be hopping around with different professionals, and so many people have nitpicked into their energy. I feel as the messages are not coming across clearly. Now, there are many different types of spiritualists, or you could say readers, or metaphysical professionals, where they tap into messages differently. It's like every radio has an antenna and it attracts the messages, and then you process them and then you communicate them to the person asking the questions. Sometimes it will be downright exact. Other times the messages may come into fruition later in time where it will make sense to you. And if you happen to be a female who's really impulsive in the middle of the night wondering how come my boyfriend didn't call me back and you book a session with me, you might get really mad at me because the message that may come across may not be what you like or what you intended to hear. So now and then there are clients who may bully you into telling them what they want to hear, and they know that Sasha doesn't deliver on that end.
Well, that actually led to my next question. I mean, how often do you find where people, because people use words, right? But then their energy or I'm sure you pick up on it, where you're like, that's not what you are asking me, because you might be
Yes,
using
and
those
that is
words.
why
Yeah,
I try to be really forthright with them, of course, in a compassionate and professional manner of what are you really trying to get at? Because typically people won't ask, how does he feel about me? Or how does she feel about me? Feelings are transient. Feelings are like conditions, they come and go. One day you're feeling great about a person, the other day you might be just ambivalent. What do you really want to know? Why are you asking about the feelings? Did something happen? Or do you want to know where this relationship is going? And once I push them for the right question, if you ask the right question, you'll get a more appropriate answer.
gotcha.
Because sometimes people don't know how to articulate or recognize the right emotion to make sense out of it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. But I mean, there's times where I'm grumpy. I'm a grumpy old bear, and Sandy picks up on it, and she just says, "Well, you're hungry." But to me, I'm angry. But I mean, it's kind of, is it not kind of like that where people, when you're in your own skin, sometimes you don't see it. It's that whole, if I can spot it, I got it kind of thing.
Yes.
But I mean, do you run into just a lot of people, and then when you say, oh, by the way, this is what's, and they kind of hit their head and go, oh man, yeah, that,
They
do you have those moments?
Yes, they do. And then there are times where they say no because I have to make sure that there's no language barrier because the primary language or the only language that I will do these spiritual sessions in, especially with the readings, is in English
Mm-hmm.
because that is the dominant language in which I understand the spiritual vernacular and the metaphysical vernacular to do that. Because now and then I have clients from different parts of the world, or even though we speak American English, some words get translated a bit differently in other countries where they speak English. So it gets tricky at times, but at the end of the day, they have to choose their question properly. If you
Yeah.
pick the right question, then you'll get the proper insight that you're looking for. Now, I
Right.
can't guarantee you what I'm going to share with you, you're going to like it or not, because sometimes people think that if they go for a metaphysical reading, they're paying for whether they're going to like the reading or not. You're paying for the professional's time and the fact that they're applying their energy or if they use tools to deliver a service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's uh, you go, and I mean, do you actually have people when you? Well, I'm sure you do. If you spend an hour with them, you tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear, and they're just completely disgusted, upset with you. Correct.
When I started out, yes, because I used to also I would share and work my skills on different websites, on
Sure.
international websites, and at that time, SashaTalks.com only presented a few limited types of services. So
Right.
initially, these people used to come on third-party platforms, which are walk-ins,
Gotcha.
and I've had instances where I read for people, and then the next day they come through that proper protocol in the third-party website saying, I don't recall getting a reading from you because they were drunk but they wanted a refund. And in those cases, I've been fortunate that the owners who track all of those type of
Yeah.
interactions would present the evidence and say, here is 40 minutes of a discussion you had with Sasha. This is you,
Yeah.
and this is valid. And I thought I saw the humor in the title of your show because when I used to work on third party platforms, I always had this theory that after midnight, all of the crazies start calling in on those walk in phone services. And I used to know that it's time to hang up when I've had this happen where a guy called in and he thought it was a phone sex service. And I said,
Oh man.
no.
Oh,
But
that yeah,
you have all types of characters, but you live and learn and you grow. You learn what your threshold is,
yeah.
and I know what I like and how I like to work and how I don't like to work. And I've gotten to a point where I don't feel bad and I don't apologize for it because there are so many other people who will take them.
You and you're absolutely right. And you can't. We're actually coming up to a break here, and everything. And so this is probably a good stopping point. So what we'll do is we'll take a break. Sasha, when we get back, I have some more questions, and after that, we're just going to kind of wrap. I got you raised an interesting topic, which is the vampires, the energy vampires. I want you to kind of go into detail about those a little bit and how they affect you and individuals and everything. So we'll take
Sure.
a quick break. When we get back, we will be talking with Sasha Lago, and
Yes.
you are listening to the Midnight Ocean Radio Show and podcast. I am your host, Jeff Norton. Join us here every weeknight from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're on the web at www.themidnightocean.com.
This is the Midnight Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network.
That is right. That's Ed Roman joining us. Indie Artist 2016 Indie Artist nominee. Ed Roman graciously allows us to play his music on the show. But you are listening to the Midnight Ocean radio show and podcast. I have to apologize. I don't know what's going on with the system. We're going to reboot it here in a few minutes, but I really don't care because you didn't come here for the music. You came here to listen to our very special guest, Sasha Laghonh. So, Sasha, welcome back to the show.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, that's gonna drive me nuts though because I'm a perfectionist. Maybe we need to talk about that. maybe, maybe. No, I mean, but going back, how much? This is always fascinating because you always hear. I've heard this before, and I'm sure our listeners have heard this before. That communication is not the words that we're speaking. There's so much more to it, and the reason why I do the YouTube feeds, believe it or not, because I definitely don't have a face for TV or anything like that. I have a face for radio, is because I think it adds a quality to the show because you get to see my reactions, which I'm told is pretty crazy sometimes. I don't know I'm doing it, but when I hear a scary story, you can tell. But how much of communication do you find is the underlying signals that people, not the words, but the underlying, the facial expressions, the energy that people give off?
Well, there's a few ways I could tackle that question. The first thing has to do with when people want to know how I do energy readings. I should make sure I don't hear myself echo. Uh, when I do readings, I tell people I'm not reading people scientifically. It's not about body language for me because 98% of the time, the people that I read for, it's through their voice vibrations, online, through chat, or through obviously the phone. And I'm going tuning into the energy. Now, in my day-to-day life and my routine, for example, if I walk out of the house and I'm running errands, or even people that you interact with, whether it is a coworker out there, a family member, a friend, or a stranger, somebody at the grocery store, they could share words with you, but you could definitely feel the energy if you're a self-aware person. And there are times where you could tell that somebody could be telling you the sweetest nothings, but the energy reeks of whether it could be deception, danger, um, you've been warned. You have to become aware of your surroundings. And sometimes people think that it's only for special people. I believe everybody has the gift of intuition. It's just a matter of if we develop it enough that we heed it. We live in a rational world that every time something happens, we try to rationalize why it happened or how it could have been avoided. But we try to override the things that we feel because what if we happen to be right? Or if you listen to your gut once, you feel the need that I'm accountable for whatever I feel and I can't ignore it from there on forward. So let me silence my gut and just go based off my thoughts because your thoughts could be overridden and you could brainwash yourself. There are a lot of people who tell themselves fantasies and they start believing them to be true. So when you go back to the communication factor, I think communication is probably in my world, I would say about 10-15% words, but majority of it has to do with the energy that people give off. And of course, at the end of the day, we cannot control perception. So some people might read more into someone's energy and words than what is actually being implied. And sometimes when people are giving off questionable energy or negative energy, they might not even be aware that they are walking around with that energy.
I mean, I mean, you can actually see that, or you can sense that they picked up a negative energy, and that's with them, or that's underlying with them.
In most cases, I could feel it and I could tell whether they're aware of it or not because you alluded to energy vampires.
Mm-hmm.
And for energy vampires, usually they're living a lifestyle of complain, complain, complain. They they want the attention, they want to be heard, but they're not doing anything actively to change their life around. It could be even a small thing in their day-to-day life that they complain about, but they're getting some form of validation from people around them that unless somebody calls them out saying, stop complaining, do something about it, they're not going to stop and think. And there are people who will either change for the better or they're not going to change, which also brings us to another whole idea, topic of control. We live in a society where people love to control other people in relationships, but they're not willing to put in the work to change and improve themselves. It says, let me change my boyfriend, but I'm not going to work on myself. They
Yeah,
feel they will rearrange the stars in the sky before they want to address anything that may be a possible deficiency in themselves.
yeah. And I I agree with you 100%. I tell people that if you're confident, I tell my daughters, I have three grown daughters, and I tell them it's like that old the saying, "Be the change you want to see," right? But more importantly, have the confidence in yourself. I mean, work on that, get the confidence in you, and then the other stuff that you're picking on, or the faults that you're seeing in other people become irrelevant. Because if you're a confident person or a confident individual, you tend to go, "Hey, that's your issue. That's not my issue. Have a good day." And go fix it. Or I'm here for you, but go fix it. And that's kind of how I don't know. I've adapted to this hardness that I have, and stuff. So, what kind of energy are you getting from me right now?
You alluded to your daughters in one of your shows. I know that you mentioned that your one of your daughters already has her own family and all. And when I was looking at you on the YouTube feed, I'm thinking he's too young to be a grandfather.
We are. I mean, it's
You're really youthful looking.
Thank you. No, we're young. It started out well. It's through the relationship. So Sandy and I have been together ever since. Well, we haven't been together. We were high school sweethearts, and then I went my crazy ways, and we have come back. And my oldest daughter, and I consider my oldest daughter, is from her relationships prior, and everything. And then she has a granddaughter, and then my middle daughter just had a granddaughter as well. They're a week, or grandson. So my oldest daughter has a grandson, and a week later, my middle daughter, my biological middle daughter, had a granddaughter. So yes, I do have grandchildren. So hey, we start out young. It's awesome. I highly recommend it because I'm young enough still that I can enjoy life, and the kids are gone. They're all out of the house doing their own thing. So
There
yes.
is a question I have for you.
Hmm.
What lured you into the world of the paranormal and
Uh,
investigating, the alternate universe?
okay, so I've always first let me say I've always been attracted to radio. I've always been attracted to this to talk radio of some sort. I had a show that was very popular. It was a political show, political podcast show. Kind of conspiracy theory, politics, and everything. You want to talk about draining? My whole demeanor, and that was one thing. Sandy knows me well enough because we were best friends in high school. Before we started dating and everything. So she knows me. She knows me 100%. And she came to me. She goes, You've changed. Doing these shows have just changed you. And you want to talk about vampires, and it's just dealing with that day in and day out and day in and day out. So I decided that I needed to leave for my sanity, for my health, and so I stopped doing the shows, even though we were very successful. Uh, what got me into the paranormal is when I was in college. I've had experiences. I've had actually one paranormal experience where I physically saw a ghost in my house, and that was enough to freak me out, to be honest with you. But I'm an inquisitive science type of guy, so I was intrigued by it. Then the analytical side of me kicks in, and I wanted to analyze it and do all those things. that my analytical self wanted to do. And while I was in college working late night, I got hooked on Art Bell and listening to his shows. And I always thought that they were entertaining, but they were informative. And when Art left the airways for the final time, I said, someone's got to carry this stuff on. Someone's got to do this. And so I'm doing it. And it's amazing. You know, when you talk about with like your coaching and everything, the advice, it's funny because people ask me how we've only been doing this show for a month now, and we have great guests. I mean, I mean, look at the guests, and we're lining up, you know, just incredible guests. And everybody asks me, how do you do it? It's like, if I pick up the phone and I reach out to people and I say, hey, look, do you want to do this? You know, do you want to be on the show? And it's amazing how many people are afraid to take that first step. And one thing about me, I'm not afraid at all. If you're a president of the United States or whoever you are, I'll walk up to you and I'll talk to you and carry on a conversation. So, but that's how I got into paranormal. It was just I'm fascinated by it. I am a debunker, so you know, I think, how do I say this? I think there's enough real stuff that goes on out there that I want to catch the guys and the persons that are faking it to get them out of it, so that we can get through the clutter and the mess and get to the cold hard facts. I The world is a fascinating place for me. I'm like a kid. I can sit and look at a blade of grass all day long, and just be marveled by it. I'm fascinated by it. And then you start throwing in the stuff that we can't explain through science currently. Um, it's intriguing. It's intriguing. I made it my life work.
I'm glad that you're continuing this on because I'm sure that compared to the political shows where people probably called in trying to convert you to agree with them or take a stand, this is hopefully less stressful on you.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you're well. How do I say this? This is what's really bizarre. It was psyche taxing because it was the stuff that we were uncovering and everything was scary, and people are like, wait a minute, you talk about demonology and you talk about you talk about this stuff. That stuff doesn't keep you up at night. Yeah, it does, but I'm grounded enough in my faith that it's not an issue for me. But uh, the when you get into the politics stuff, it is, people are, how do I say this? People are so divisive when it comes to politics. Either you agree with them or you don't. And if you don't, then you're the enemy. You know, I must destroy you. And to me, it's like, how are you going to resolve issues with that attitude? And I found myself having that attitude, and I had to step away. I had I just had I it was, you talk about vampire. It sucked the life out of me to the point to where it was physically, you could tell physically. And you know, so the paranoia, I don't even consider this paranoia. You know, we want to label this stuff. I don't consider this stuff paranormal. I just think it's unexplained. Science has not been able to explain it yet, and so they lump it into, one word. But with the stuff that you do, uh, we go back in history. We go all the way back to written history, and see that there were individuals who in past that had your ability. Um, some of them go get degrees and they charge a lot of money and they give people drugs. Others follow the path you followed, which is more
That is
holistic.
scary. Where one thing I let people know is I do not diagnose medically. I'm
Yeah,
not a licensed doctor,
yeah,
and I don't hand out medication or any of that. If I had to be categorized, because the world is so big on labeling people, my approach would be holistic.
yeah. You're
And if I can't help people, I'm pretty upfront about it, and I tell them why. And there are times where I have to turn down people because my gut tells me you cannot work with them. And at that moment in time, I might not have a clear impression of why not, but I'm not meant to mix my energies with. those people of interest at that moment in time.
I had a really good, smart. He was a Vanderbilt. He was actually a psychiatrist, and he was a Vanderbilt taught doctor, doctor of psychiatry. He looked at me one day, and this is when I was younger and I was manic, just all over the place. Trying to figure out where I fit into this world, and everybody goes through that. That's just part of growing up. And I had one profession is like, oh, we want to give you this or that. It's going to help you. And this one doctor guy who I highly respected, he worked with Vietnam. He was a Vietnam vet and worked with and he goes, Jeff, he goes, feelings are exactly that. You're supposed to feel them. And by taking drugs or doing, self-medication or any drugs or anything that they give you, all you're doing is masking your feelings. You should feel them. And once you get in touch with them, it's a pretty amazing, process. And it took me a while to get there and everything. So yeah, I agree with you. All the stuff that's out there that blocks people's feelings and all of the distractions that are out there that block people's ability to feel because they're distracted. It's just that's concerning to me. I mean, how do you feel? I mean, you have a talent. I don't have a. I don't say read people, like you do, but you have a physical talent. When you walk through a crowd of people, I mean, do you pick up on? You have to pick up on all the energy. How do you calm those voices in your head, or how do you calm that energy?
I've been asked that question a few times, and I tell them I don't walk around like a cell phone tower where I pick up on every single, you could say, spot out there. But it's similar to I begin my day with energy grounding, prayer. I just happen to be big on prayer because it's something that I was brought up on, and just keeping myself focused, knowing that I have to focus on myself. This isn't about anybody else out there. And if there's any negative energy or anyone just projecting their angst onto us, that could happen anywhere. It could be among people that we live with when we walk out of the door, in a grocery store, anywhere. That just to project that back onto whoever's sending those type of vibes, and only make a conscious decision to react to positivity. Of course, I'm human. I have good days and bad days, but that's the mindset that I intend to walk around with. Now, when I go grocery shopping or stuff, I will admit that I hate shopping in crowds. And I remember making a comment once around acquaintance, and they said, "Oh, Sasha, that's ridiculous. You should just go out and shop whenever you need to." And I'm really particular. I'd rather shop towards the end of the day or before the crowds go out because I just hate being bombarded in crowds of people. And I'm not claustrophobic. Now, I don't pick up on everyone's energy, but I will admit there are times where I walked into a store and something doesn't feel right and I will run out of there
Wow.
because I could afford the luxury of time at that moment as I don't really need to be here, so let me walk out. Now, I remember during my college days, I had befriended somebody who happened to be a clairvoyant, and she could see people's auras. And I didn't know that about her until she and I shared an experience where we were walking down the streets of Boston, and all of a sudden I saw this old lady, a spirit, just passed through this man. It was like a bag lady who just passed through this man who was physically walking in front of me. And that's when I realized that, uh-oh, I'm beginning to see it as well. And that's when she and I started talking about our gifts.
Gotcha.
And she was the type of, if we went to the gym together and somebody was working out next to us and she didn't like the energy, she would drag all of us and move us to a different part of the gym. Some people are really particular about that. If I feel it, I will I will not give it energy or empower them, but if I could move, I will move away from that setting if I can.
So when you saw the bag lady walk through, you think what you were doing is actually you were picking up on your friend's energy and just seeing like what she saw as a clairvoyant?
You mean by proxy?
Yeah,
I've
by
been
proxy.
able to see spirits, but since childhood, I could feel them. But I realized that by the time I was embracing 20, a lot of the things that I would feel, I was starting to see them.
Mhm.
And I know that the creator knows that I could feel them. So I'm one of those people, I don't need to see it to believe it.
Sure.
And it's a running joke among a few professionals who know me that I leave all of that mediumship work to them, although I've been tested professionally for the mediumship. And people question me, how come you don't offer those services? And I said, if it comes up in a reading, a spiritual session, I will pass along the messages, but I don't go looking for spirits. It just seems that the spirits that may surround me when I'm traveling or so, they know or they have an idea that she could see them, so I will present myself before her. Sometimes spirits do that for acknowledgement, attention. Rarely will they talk to me. But when they talk to me, they speak to me in foreign languages that I don't speak. But it's weird because when a spirit talks to me in a foreign language that I don't understand, I completely get it through telepathy what
Yeah.
they're telling me verbatim.
It's funny that you say that because I was actually gonna bring that up a little bit later. Like with me, and it goes back to how much of it's spoken versus how much you pick up. I've traveled internationally, and I've been in countries where I don't speak the language at all. I've never been exposed to the language, and I know exactly what the people are saying. Now I can't speak it back to them, but when they
Right,
say something, I know exactly. And I've done that a couple. I had an incident in a business meeting where a guy made a comment, and I was sitting around the table, and it was a derogatory comment, and he was making a comment about the presenter, and to his buddy, but they were doing it, and they were the only ones in the room that they thought could speak the language, and I didn't speak the language, and I knew exactly what he said, and I leaned over the table and I looked right at him, and he knew that I knew exactly what he said, and to like I said, it was the weirdest experience. It's kind of like I heard the sounds, but it instantly in my mind got translated, and I knew.
right. You pick up on it, you feel it. It's as your body could interpret it before your mind even questions what were
Yeah,
those words.
yeah. It was bizarre, and see, my feeling, and I don't know. We talked a little bit about this last night with Manu. Is I call it the new car syndrome. When you go out and you buy a new car, and you think it's the only car and everything, and you buy it and then you drive it off the lot, and then you start seeing 20 of them everywhere you go. You see your car, and you're
Right,
like, oh. I think spirituality, these types of talents, these types of skills are kind of like that. Once you delve into them and once you commit to them, then you see it all the time. And that was always a concern of mine, especially doing these shows, because obviously I'm learning things and we're talking about things. I'm talking to experts, and I'm learning things from them, and I'm picking up things from them. And I've always said it's only gonna be a matter of time where I walk in a room, and I had the one ghost experience that to this day still freaks me out. But I can tell you, I'm sure there's going to be a day that at one point I'm like going to be like you, where I'm going to be walking through the streets and I'm going to see, and it's just going to freak me out. You're going to see a grown man just go,
well, I'm glad
"Whoa!"
because if I see them, I'll just send them your way because I think you're going to be much more welcoming to them.
Well,
Because
I'll sit down and have an interview with them. I'll be
you
like,
could interview probably a whole family of them. I
yeah,
mean, crossing paths with one at a time or having those interactions from my past, I think it was enough to make my head spin the
yeah,
first time it happened. And it just comes down to just as human beings, there are good human beings, good
yeah.
souls. There are some souls that need attention, and then there are some bad souls. It's just part of life, just like that with spirits. there are good spirits that mean well, and that there are some spirits that are stuck in transition because they might have unfinished business on Earth.
Yeah.
And then there are those that are really in a holding pattern that need assistance. And it just like we walk the earth, spirits dwell among us. It's
I,
just a matter of we don't always see them.
exactly. And with that, we hear the music. You can barely hear it because the system's not working that well, but it is queued up in my headset. And so we will take a quick break, Sasha, and come back here, and because we got so much more to talk about. I got so much more to talk to you about.
This is the
Great, I'm
Midnight
enjoying
Ocean
it.
with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network. This is the Midnight Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network.
That is right. You're listening to the Midnight Ocean Radio Show and Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Norton. You can join us here every Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or on the web at www.themidnightocean.com. And tonight we have a very special guest joining us, Sasha Laghonh. And Sasha, I do apologize. This is really, now, are you picking up some energy from me right now?
I don't know if it's me, but my body temperature is rising.
Okay, because
So as long as you're calm, I think we're good.
I am getting frustrated. No, it's probably me because it's I'm getting really frustrated with this computer system. It's just it's driving me nuts. But I was also going to ask you, can you affect things? Because you said that every show you go on, especially the paranormal shows, something audio or something happens to the equipment.
I hope I'm not doing anything to your equipment because I've had cases when I used to do Sasha Talk Spirituality a few years ago on Blog Talk, where I've had cases where my gut would tell me ahead of time that you're not supposed to do a show today.
Yeah.
And of course, I still want to log in and do the show for my listeners because they would religiously tune in. And I've had instances where I've logged in and for some reason my dashboard is showing me some UFO show and things are moving around. It's not even my account or anything. Or even though I don't watch TV, sometimes I'm working out of furnished studios
Yeah.
and lights are flickering and the TV's turned on but it's muted as I'm not actively watching and the channels are flipping on their own. And another detail about me to this day, this is over a period of 7 years it's been happening. When I do energy work, at times I feel the energy is so strong that I could feel the fire alarm going off.
Mm.
And I have to be careful because when I'm traveling and if I happen to be staying in a hotel, I'm more guarded because the fire alarm will go off.
So you have done. I mean, you've been in those situations where you've set those things off, and I believe that you set them off. It's not that.
Yes,
Yeah.
not that I like to keep count and I'm not proud of it, but there are two, three friends of mine who are aware of this because I will usually announce this. I feel it coming on. And it's happened about 7 times
Mm-hmm.
in a period of about 3, 4 years. And for example, if I feel it coming on, it typically happens within 72 hours. I don't like to put a time frame on it, but within 2, 3 days, wherever I am, some fire alarm will go off, and I'm thinking, uh-oh.
Yeah. That is that's amazing, and I believe you. I mean, I wholeheartedly believe you because I know that people. I mean, the scientist in me tells me that the energy that it takes to take sugar, you eat a piece of bread and convert that, or to convert that piece of bread into sugar to store it and stuff, is the same or equivalent to a nuclear power plant. So we are energy creatures. There is no doubt about it. I mean, I have devices that I can measure your energy. Just you walking into the room. I mean, that's how a lot of these detection systems that the government uses. That's how they work. They look at fields, and then they look at things that block fields, and stuff. So I 100% believe you on that you've had those experiences. Now, so you said that you've always had these even at a very young age, correct?
Yes, of course, as a kid, I didn't know that there was a way to define it. I just thought this is normal because this is just how I am. You feel that it resides in your body, that I could just immediately when I would meet people as a kid, I would know whether I'm going to like them or not. And there were some people that I would literally run from. And thankfully, my mom herself is intuitive, but she's not a practitioner. But also, as a mother's instinct, she never questioned me why I didn't want to be around someone. She just took my word for it. And I'm fortunate because sometimes adults happen to force children in situations where they don't understand that children are still vibrating from the other realm and they're really sensitive to the surroundings of people and things. And children are typically really receptive to people. They don't view the world in colors, they don't view the world in labels. All of that stuff comes, that baggage is acquired over a period of time as we embrace adulthood because we learn how to live in society. It doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. But as a kid, I just had that inkling of I could feel things. And then my opening up phase was a tad bit painful during my teenage years because I used to go through sleep paralysis. I would feel that there was a spirit literally holding me down, and I would wake up in night sweats. And at that moment in time, I didn't know what exactly was going on. And it continued on a little bit until my early 20s when I started really not running from my gifts, but I had to make sense of them, of what is going on, because this is not normal. I don't hear my friends talking about this. That even going to sleep was a bit of an ordeal for me because I thought being in a waking state, I was at peace. If I were to fall asleep, God knew what would happen.
Yeah, yeah. It, that's amazing. And, I want to tell you, Sasha, we are we are having. All right, so here we go. We got to clear our minds here. We got to work together on this one because
Okay.
everybody in YouTube land is saying that your sound is fluctuating versus my sound, and things are,
Really?
we are seeing, and I'm getting reports of this, that the board, it's weird. I'm really, this is, I don't want to say freaking me out. I'm amazed by this. I truly am, of what's going on here in the studio. I've never had this happen where the sound is, our sounds are not at the same level. Like I'll be higher or I'll be lower or whatever, and it's jumping back and forth. And
Oh
what's
my.
really amazing about this is that all the sounds except for YouTube goes through the board. So it's weird how that's working. So all of you guys out there in YouTube that are listening in chat, let me know, have we EQ'd the sound a little bit better, uh, and let them do it. But
Okay.
that's bizarre that we're having this. I've never had this happen. I've had Big Brother, and stuff, but I've never had this actually go on where the sounds are flipping out. Maybe it's because we got a hurricane outside. That could be
Well, it could be many things. I know that I don't like my voice to begin with, but hopefully it's not any of our energies all meshing
meshing
together.
together. Yeah. And so, can I be selfish and can I ask, or should I even ask, or tell me no? I mean, what kind of energy are you picking up? And I'll be 100% honest with you. I'll tell you exactly how I feel, and to make this, more. I mean, are you picking up any type of energy or anything from this end?
The only, well, typically, when I do energy readings, I
Mm-hmm.
do a grounding ritual and
Oh,
all of that before I
okay.
even jump into anyone's energy. So I'm not into your energy, but at the moment, the one thing that I have noticed in the past 15 minutes is that my body temperature is rising at a faster rate
Oh, wow.
than I typically am because I'm someone who is usually cold. And the running joke is I'm always dressed in layers. And today I'm dressed in a one layer dress and I'm feeling hot. And I never thought I would say that because I'm just talking to you. I'm not
Oh.
doing a reading.
And it's been about 15 minutes that we're starting to have these audio quality issues.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's documented. I'm sitting here looking at everybody in YouTube's like, no, they actually have to turn their their radios down because it's too loud. How to turn? Yeah, this is crazy.
Because you come off really, you sound so normal that I haven't picked up anything on my end, but I know you're the one doing the show,
Yeah,
that you're more privy to all of the technical stuff at the moment.
yeah, yeah. No, I had to turn you way down. You're in my ear. In my ear, even I had to turn you way down, and I'm still waiting for someone in the chat room to, for those that are the energy from the storm rolling in. They're saying that it's the energy from the storm that's rolling in is what's doing, it's messing with us. So, but
Okay.
Possum, if anybody in the chat room, let me know how we sound now, because I'd like to get this EQ'd out. If you guys can tell me, and you and I will just roll on, Sasha. So It's pretty amazing. And I've always believed I could never. I know we're energy. I, I I know we're energy. Like I said, scientifically, it's been proven that we're all energy, and I think it's amazing the fact that people can pick up on other people's energy and everything. What I find concerning though is, can you take on other people's energy
In
as
terms of being a sponge and absorbing their
yeah, I
energy,
mean, yeah, exactly.
yes, and that is one thing that is an ongoing life lesson for me is how to form boundaries energetically around people, and not only for myself. You don't have to be a practitioner. This is for everybody out there listening, that at times we don't realize that we're just open to the masses and we could just embrace whatever emotion that may be around us. There are times where we wake up and we don't know why we're feeling a certain way. And it might not be coming from within us, but it might be something around us. It could be our environment, it could be our setting. Because there are times where I have individuals who come in, and this is a isolated example where an individual may be complaining that they're not happy in a work setting because they feel that they're made to feel different, but but your employer might make you feel as you are the problem, but the true problem may be that you are in a toxic environment and you're just dwelling in I don't want to say a garbage bag, but you need to go find yourself a healthier work setting where you could thrive. Sometimes it's not you, it's everything around you. And that's not in saying that push back that accountability factor, but you have to be careful who you surround yourself with. If you're always going to be around things that are gloomy, complaining, depressing, then sooner or later it's going to start chipping away at your energy level. And you could still be in that type of environment because think of how many people are in sensitive work settings when you go in hospitals. For me, I do not like to walk into hospitals
Yeah,
because I pick up on energies that are fluctuating between life and death, or the energy levels are too low, that try to stay away from those type of settings. I used to do charity work at a senior home where it was serving people with Alzheimer's, and I only lasted there a week and I ran out of there because I swear to God, I felt as majority of the patients in there were dead people walking around. And because of my abilities, I picked up too much and it was too much to handle.
wow, wow,
That I couldn't take it, and I could tell that I felt that was hell on earth because I could tell that these souls were literally ready to pass on, and I could feel it, but you could just see their physical bodies walking around, going through the motions of
yeah,
living. And there was only so much I could do because I was there as a volunteer. I wasn't running the place, but I thought I had seen a lot until then. But I just felt as it was, uh, I was made aware of my emotional innocence until I was put in that setting. Typically, we think I could handle it. I've seen so much good and bad, but until you're put in a setting where you see people who can't help themselves and you spiritually pick up on their energies and they're going back and forth between the earth realm and the other realm, it's a bit too much for an empath. Or let me put it this way, I could only talk about myself. It was a bit too much for me and I left.
gotcha, gotcha. So yeah, I mean, I that's weird that you say that, because I worked in a hospital, and that's how I put myself through college, and and I worked graveyard shift, and and it's weird. It's a weird feeling. I get it. I know exactly what you're talking about. How you pick up on that. But I like I said, I found that fascinating to me, and everything. So, and we're still, by the way, we're still fighting the sound quality issue. over
Okay.
here. So
But
I
going
think,
back to your question about picking up on other people's energy, I
yeah.
think it's really important to know how to ground your own energy and guard it because sometimes there are people who love to be around people all day long. I
Hmm.
am in the business of people, but at the same time, I believe in boundaries. And it doesn't mean it has to be physical boundaries, but also energetic boundaries. You can't let other people's emotional baggage overwhelm you because we all have our own stuff that we have to work through.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, and there are people out there. I'm a firm believer that there are people out there that see, we call them the energy vampires or whatever spirit. And there are people who go out there and suck energy out of people. I've been around people that are just so tasking. It's incredible. I can't. It's almost where you leave and you just feel like you got the flu or something after being around them for so long.
Right. And I really believe that if you're not around the right people, these vampires can make you sick, like
Hmm.
physically sick. Not
Yeah.
only just drain your energy level, but there are people that I cross paths with and they learned the hard way that I've been working for at this place for so long. And they start realizing that no matter how much improvement they bring into their life, the one thing that needs to change is the company that they surround themselves with.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I mean, that's why, like couples at work, people that get each other and stuff. I think that they have an energy level that meshes, and that's part of the process or part of the thing. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to find someone who like I said, Sandy and I were best friends, and it's weird. We act like we're good friends. We actually pick on each other like we're good friends. And people people on the outside looking in would be like, but the energy's there. I mean, I can tell when she doesn't feel good. She obviously knows when I don't feel good because I'm a little bit more vocal than she is about stuff like that. But
But
yeah,
that is a wonderful thing because compatibility is something that a lot of people overlook. Typically, when people go out and they're looking for dating and relationships and all, sometimes they overlook the small things that matter day to day because they just want the happy ending and they're not thinking too much about does my energy gel well with this individual? And one thing that I tell people is that when you're looking for the right opportunity in the form of a person or a new environment, you have to remember that inner nature doesn't change. People could change their words, they could change how they look, they could change their behaviors, but their energy will remain constant. You can't hide your true nature.
true, true. Well, I mean, can people? I guess when you said people can't hide it, I mean, but people do change, right? I mean, people can change
For the better?
for the better.
Yes.
Okay.
People can change for the better. Now, in terms of when women come forward and they keep on saying, well, he loves me, but she's in an abusive situation where he's abusing her, whether it's emotionally or physically, one thing that I feel that people overlook is that if he or she loves you, then where's the respect? Because if there was respect, typically people think love comes first and then you're going to work on the respect part. But
Yeah.
if the respect comes first, in most cases, if you give it time and work at it, the love may follow. And it makes me question when there are women who come forward and they say that they're in an abusive situation and they don't leave because it might be out of fear, toxic relationship, codependency, or he keeps on saying he loves me and they believe it, but that's not true love. Now, I've also had circumstances where a female came forward and she confessed that she was physically abusing her man, and I brought it to her attention that this falls outside my realm. This is more of a domestic issue, and it also happened to be a medical issue, and that you should not be touching anybody with any object. And I forewarned her that if she continued on this path, she will be taken away by authorities because she's just putting herself in that situation. So abuse goes, it exists among both genders. And
Yeah.
there are a lot of things that have come into my world by delivering different types of spiritual services that has opened up my eyes because you know that it exists out there. And a lot of times people talk about it because women bring it up, but we also have to represent the men out there.
Yeah,
Men get the short end of the stick time to time as well.
yeah. Well, men are less. Most of the guys. It's funny. I can tell you, we had a construction crew over here, and I told them what I do. And at first, the first reaction that most men have to anything paranormal is like, "You believe in that crap?" And it's that I mean that's the first reaction because men are they're taught that whatever, and it's and what's really funny though, what I find is that when you pull a man by himself away from his buddies, away from his friends, and you start asking them the questions, then they're like, yeah, man, I had that happen, or they'll tell you a story. It's amazing how, and I don't know why we're wired that way, or why men feel, or why people feel that way in general. I find that women in general are more open with their feelings or their experiences, where men are more, they think I'm crazy or they think I'm nuts or I'm a fruitcake, but then when you pull them aside and you start talking with them, they're like, yeah, and I saw a UFO, or I was out hunting, or I was out fishing, or whatever, and saw these things, or I woke up and there was a dark shadow in the corner of my bedroom staring at me.
I'm glad that you shared that observation because on my spiritual shows where I used to do the readings, I remember that more men would come to me privately in session than call into the show, but
Mm.
women are more willing to just air out their dirty laundry on
Yeah,
the show.
yeah,
And I would always tell them, slow down. Do not tell me your name. If you want to share your first name and question.
yeah.
And some people feel that the more information that they give you, the better it will be, but men operate differently. And I've learned that as well.
Yeah, I don't ever remember. Like I said, I'm looking back. I grew up in my father's military and stuff. I don't ever remember a period in my life where my dad said, "Don't talk about this stuff. Keep it to yourself." So it's not an educational. It wasn't a behavior that was learned to suppress those, these things. Because I critically look back at my life as a young man, and and I don't ever remember having a comment. Well, you don't talk about stuff like this. You don't talk about stuff like that. So I know it didn't come from there. I think it's just maybe it's just genetic. Maybe it goes back all the way to prehistoric. I don't know, but like I said, to, just today, the construction guys were over here checking on the pool because of the hurricane, and one of the guys pulled me aside and he goes, "You do that paranormal show, don't you?" And it's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Man, I got a story for you, to tell you." And I'm like, "Shoot." And he goes, "I don't have time. I'll get back to you." And then that was when his brother walked up. He's like, I don't have time. I'll get back to you." And it's like, "Oh, come on, man. Tell me your story." And I don't know. I don't know. Now we're gonna get a little bit in the dark, and you tell me if you're comfortable, if you want to answer these and everything. Have you
Okay.
ever picked up on just pure evil?
Define evil because I will say that I picked up on energies that really reek. There was one incident, I don't know if I would define it, classify it as evil, but this happened probably 7, 8 years ago where I was at a gas station and I was temporarily staying in that town in Northern California. I was a visitor and I would frequent, and there was an elderly man there, and he was, you could say grandfatherly, that he would
Hmm.
always say, "Hello, dear, how are you?" And I would probably see him maybe twice a week because I would always, it was a close gas station there. And he was always sweet. Until one day, I got ready to pull out, and he came out to talk to me and he wanted to take me out for coffee. And I'm thinking, okay, this is weird because
Yeah.
his words were so sweet, and anybody who saw him would know that this is a grandfatherly type of figure. But his energy reeked so bad. where I knew that something was off about him. In terms of if I could call the cops, I would have, but I
Mhm.
need a good reason to call the cops. And I remember a week later, I went back to the gas station and I was greeted by a young teenager. And I said, "Oh, what happened to so and so?" And he said he was arrested for rape.
Oh, wow.
And then I don't know what happened, but I ran into that guy a few months later because I was still working a contract opportunity at another gas station, and his entire face was it was full of scabs and cuts and stuff. And he supposedly told me that he fell and he needed the plastic surgery, but I had found out through the other person that he was arrested, and I don't know on what basis he was let go, but he was a physical threat to young females.
Wow.
There's another incident that also happened. This was years ago, where I would have to take a public commute. Again, I now and then I travel throughout the country for different contract opportunities, and I remember that I would have to take the train, and this was again on the West Coast, where I would be on the train by 6 o'clock, and I would always make sure that I was surrounded by really tall businessmen in long coats because I remember it was winter time, and whenever I had to get off in the financial district, I would literally speed walk to where I had to go because I would always come across homeless people. Now, homeless people are not bad people.
Yeah.
They should not be feared, but in that given type of neighborhood, I knew that I was being watched. And you could feel as there's a laser beam focus where someone is following and tracking your patterns from where you go. And it kept on happening for about 2 weeks until one Tuesday morning, I got to my destination and I said, "I swear to God, I feel as someone literally counted how many steps I took from the time I got off the train to getting through security in the building."
Mm.
And when I walked out during lunchtime, I took one of my male coworkers with me at that time, and we found out that this one guy was arrested for rape again. He had struck again for the fifth time, and it was right outside the building that I walked out from.
Wow.
So sometimes when you feel that something is off or you feel that there's danger in a setting, chances are high that heed guidance. I mean, don't
Yeah.
manifest it, don't fixate on it. But when it comes to safety, I always tell women that we're not always going to be, uh, you know, walking by our men day in, day out. We
Yeah.
can't play good cop, bad cop with
Yeah.
our partners, with our children, with our family members. We still have to go live our life, but pay attention to your setting. Energy is really real. Now, I didn't wake up in the morning and go looking for those type of
Mhm.
creepy people, but if I pick up on it, I know that there's something off.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when I lived and worked in Chicago, I had an incident where I was walking, 'cause, my office was quite a bit away from the train station, and I was walking, and I'm a big dude. I mean, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'6". I'm built. I'm a professional size football player. I could play offensive line, you know. But it was weird because as I was walking, there was a person who was a homeless, or I don't know what he was, but he was sitting there on the street corner, and couldn't see his face, couldn't see anything, and it was almost like someone grabbed me from the collar and dragged me to the other side of the street.
Hmm.
And I'm not intimidated by very, very little things. I mean, it was weird. It was one of the most bizarre experiences that I ever had, where it was almost like I was physically, my body was like, oh, just walk forward, and my, whatever force was like, nope, you're going this way, and I walked, walked across the street, and it's weird. You got to follow. Yeah, you got to follow your gut.
Yep, you have
Oh,
to follow your instinct because when you mentioned that you knew where to go on the street, it reminded me that for 2, 3 days leading up to that guy's arrest, I would just keep on changing patterns and dwelling among tall, huge businessmen walking in the same direction, thinking that, God forbid, if anything happened, the most I could do is probably scream. And these men are probably your size. But it's one of those things we can't take it for granted.
Yeah.
When your gut tells you don't go a certain way, even when you're driving in a car, I try to heed guidance
Yeah.
because I know that gut feelings don't lie. And when I don't listen to my gut or I try to rationalize, then I know I'm going to pay the price.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, we're energy, and we give off energy, and be it positive, be it negative, be it whatever, it's energy, and some people can just pick up on it better than others. And I'm a firm believer in that. Like I said, there's enough scientific study, there's enough research, there's enough devices that are built around that. I mean, the magnetometer that they use at airports, the way that that works is that it picks up your energy, but then it also looks for things that block it, that reflect back, and that's a core concept of how those things work. So, it's only natural to say, hey, look, you can, you know, people can pick that stuff up. I've always been fascinated with the ability, like you said, through proxy, uh, the ability to sit with someone and, I know they call it empathy or they call it whatever, but through proxy, be able to pick up on their emotional state and then be able to address that. Or, you have the physical, obviously if a person's crying, they're sad, or they're, yelling, they're angry. But I've always been
Right, but
fascinated by those people that can actually, that can look. And this goes back to one of our guests that she did interviews with psychopaths, and psychopaths are they're master manipulators. I mean,
right, is this Diane Emerson?
yes,
I did listen to that one. It was
yes,
amazing.
yes, and how she was able to say, and I don't know, but I feel that there was some things going on there where I don't think she realized it, but in her, yeah, and as she was telling her story, she was like, I'll sit here and play this game. That, did you hear that one where she was like, I'll play this, but the truth will come out eventually, and I'll just sit here and wait for the truth to come out. And
Right,
eventually, the guy did tell her the truth and say, "Oh yeah, that's what I was actually thinking." And she's like, "Yeah, and I don't know how much of that is based upon just experience or how much it is that she picked up on it. And I know people in law enforcement that are great interrogators that are able to pick up on stuff, and they're very good at it. They can, they're like human lie detectors, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
that also ties into energy that, speaking of psychopaths or just people in general, there are those that are users or energy vampires who will go around, and most of the master manipulators know what type of people to pick on and what type of people to leave alone because they know they're going to get a lot of resistance,
Yeah,
and they're not going to be able to get through that person or get that self validation or satisfaction that they're trying to derive from that experience. How come some women get picked on more than other women? Or how come some men, because there are also really good soft men out there who end up investing so much of their resources and energy in certain people and then they lose the love of their life. I
yeah,
mean, that is just an isolated example, but people know who to pick on and who to leave alone.
yeah. No, I agree. I think you can put out that energy that says, "Hey, look, I'm not open for business," or whatever it is. So just move on. I mean, and as I do more and more of these shows, and I talk to more and more people, I'm learning that that's very critical to have that ability. And you mentioned that you ground yourself. How does one, do you have a routine that you do? Is there like a standard routine? Is there something to kind of like grind that I can do in the morning or whenever to kind of ground my energy? What's the process in grounding one's energy?
There are many ways of doing it. I know everybody is different. For me, it could be a simple prayer. For example, whether I read, let's say, Psalm 91 from the Bible, which is just a gentle reminder in terms of spirituality and religion, or I could do EFT tapping or meditate for 5, 10 minutes of sheer silence where you force your brain to not think about anything. And I will admit that I was introduced to it a decade ago, but I still had a monkey mind then that I used to laugh it off. But then I realized 3, 4 years after that moment that I really needed to learn how to focus and clear my mind and not let any person, any thought, any worry enter my mind for at least 5 to 10 minutes a day. And then you build up those durations of meditation, whether it's 5 minutes to 20 minutes. Some people could do it for 30 minutes. Because I am a high energy person, I also try to work out 4 or 5 times a week. And if I could get 6 to 9 miles in, I know that by the end of my day, I'm calm enough to just end my day on a calm note.
Okay.
Because you need to burn off that excess energy because an idle mind is a dangerous mind. I just don't have an idle mind. It's just I'm bouncing off the walls then.
Gotcha.
Some
So,
people do yoga, but basically sweat it out if you can, but
gotcha.
also feed the mind. You have to learn how to silence the mind, or anybody could start, you know, uh, taking up space in your mind and heart, and they're going to stay there until you kick them out.
See, I would think it was just the opposite. I'd keep the mind going so they had no space. They couldn't cram their crummy little thoughts. And,
That's another way of looking at it. I didn't look at it that way.
see, that's what I would be doing. I'd be like, no, no, I'm doing long division in my head. Saying you can't, no, no, no entry, no entry. But I've I've tried various ways of calming myself and getting, the meditation. And I can't, what's really weird is when I meditate, believe it or not, I hear a lot of negativity. Is that normal
Is that
or is
coming
that
from within you,
from
or
within?
is that
Yeah.
negativity where it's coming from people?
No, from within me. When I slow down and try to meditate, I hear a lot of negative things, like all my faults, all the issues that I, have to deal with, and those all come out, and so it's
As,
nerve wracking. That's why I stay moving. That's why.
as long as you acknowledge, it's a little bit as when people critique us. We can't change people's perception, so we have to take the good and the bad, and then to let it go. We all have faults or deficiencies. So even if we think of negativity first, it's like emotions. If we acknowledge it, then just to let it go, but not to feed into that energy and fixate on the negative thoughts that are coming in.
Gotcha.
Because years ago, I was taught by a good practitioner that we have to control our monkey mind, and every time we have a negative thought, we have to replace it with a positive thought. And a good friend of mine, I forgot, he attended one of the spiritual institutes on the East Coast. And for a retreat, they made each participant wear a rubber band on their wrist. And every time you had a negative thought, you had to pull on that rubber band. So you would feel that pull and push. And every time it snapped, it made you self aware of how many negative thoughts you had.
Yeah. I've done that exercise. I've had to do that exercise. I had to do. My big issue is that my mind races. I am, and even with radio, I will be on the next subject before completing the first subject. So it's almost like ADD, right?
Okay, well, I'm kind of guilty of doing that when I am hosting, depending
Mhm.
on what the topic is. So I am still working on that. And when I do my segments, I don't hide the fact that I don't come from a radio
Mhm.
background, and I am just doing it to spread a message.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that is something I also battle with at times when I get either a bit too overexcited or I'm thinking, okay, well, what? we need to move on to the next thing because my teenage years initially were spent in the tri-state area around New York City, and that part of me is still in me as like go, go, go,
Go, go.
and
Yeah.
my mind is always going. And when I'm traveling throughout different parts of the country, I realize maybe I need to calm down. But compared to 10 years ago, I would say that I'm working on it and I've come a long way. But with the monkey mind, Jeff, I think it's good to keep your mind active as long as you know what your destination is.
Sure. Sure. And that's fair. I mean that's the thing. But like I said, is I definitely have a monkey mind. I've got a pack of monkeys bouncing around in there, and they're having one heck of a party because it is amazing, and like I know me, I know how I think and everything, and that is such a hard part for me to control. And I like I said, I've tried the meditation. I've tried to relax at night. I'll sit in bed and I can't go to bed unless I've got music on or some noise in the background, some white noise, because the minute my mind shuts down or starts to shut down, um, that's when those negative, you didn't do this today. You shouldn't have gotten that bad. Why did it take you so long to do this? And in a former life before doing this, I was a software programmer. And
Really?
yeah, I write software. And so I would write programs in my sleep and then get up and actually type them out. So I think I probably conditioned myself to this behavior.
I
But
was going to say that because you're functioning at such a high vibration that you can't just undo what you already know.
uh, there you go. Some little insight there. Yeah, that's yeah. I,
It's like you're a computer that's just turned on
mhm.
and you go to sleep, but once you're on again, it's just you're just spitting out messages.
Yeah, that and yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Is that and what's really strange when I do this show though, I'm actually, even though my mind is, because you got to stay ahead of of the conversation because it's a conversation and you got to keep it going and everything. And I use those filler words if you heard and then the and that's my mind trying to catch up, or my lips trying to catch up with my mind. But I will say that when I do these shows, I am very relaxed when I do the radio shows and I have these conversations with people. I'm at the most relaxed state that I could ever be. It's when I turn the microphones off, that's when it all floods in.
So
One big
it's
wave.
therapy in a sense as well. But to complement your question about grounding energy, because I
Mm-hmm.
feel that I didn't fairly hear me?
I can. We actually, I had a huge crash. I think the hurricane has finally hit mainland.
Okay.
I had a
Okay.
huge crash outside my house, and I lost my internet. The internet connection just dropped out. I think. I want to talk some more, but there's a
I
part of
will
me that
leave it
says,
to your
yeah,
discretion.
there's a part of me that says I probably need to round the family up and make sure everybody's safe and that we are safe. Um,
You do that because I could always return when you are ready.
let's do, Sasha. Let's do this. Uh, let um yeah. There's something telling me that I need to take care of family. I need to take care of some business here because
I
it is
completely
definitely. I've
understand.
got the headphones on and I can definitely hear the increase of the wind and everything that's going on outside, and I probably need to start checking on stuff. So,
Sure.
oh, I feel so bad though. Can you
You
come back? I
shouldn't.
mean,
We
can
could
we?
always reconnect when you're ready, and
Okay,
I know that whenever your calendar is available, we could work
sure,
something out.
sure. And I do apologize, but I think like I said, there's a part of me that says that I need to take care of this, and I think it's getting pretty dicey out there right now. So,
No, I think you should take
all
care of your
right.
family. But thank you so much, Jeff, for
No,
having me. And
thank
we'll
you.
continue this another evening.
Okay, thank you, Sasha. Thank you for joining us and everything. And I do have some more questions, but yeah, we need to reconvene. I hear something crashing. Something just hit the side of my car or something out here.
Okay.
So
Oh no, you need to
let me
get
go
there.
deal with that.
Okay. Thank you,
All
Jeff.
right, bye now. Take care of
Bye.
yourself. Sasha Lago, for everybody that's out there listening and everything, I am going to have to call it a night. As you guys know, this is about the time that the hurricane was going to hit. I thought we were pretty much out of danger, but it sounds like there's a lot of crashing, a lot of booming going out of the studio, plus we're losing our internet connection off and on. So with that, I just want to say, hey, be safe, take care of yourself, be loved. That's the most important thing. Just be loved, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. I will have my Twitter, so hang out there on Twitter. I will definitely keep you guys, you listeners, posted to what's going on. It's the best way is the MN Ocean at sign the MN Ocean, and I will follow up and I'll make sure that we post, let you guys know that everybody's safe and things are going on. But I do appreciate it, and I do apologize to Sasha because we were getting into it there with a good conversation, and I had to cut her short and stuff. But yeah, I have to take care of family, man. Family comes first, always, always will. But be well, be loved, more importantly, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Get out there on Twitter, and I will keep you guys updated what's going on. Thank you. Have a great night.